Reclaiming America. So let's get started and say, hi, I'm Bill, and here's Laffy over
How
here.
about, go. No. Okay. Hi, how is everybody doing? I was looking at my phone here. Welcome back.
Somebody talks to him, which is a good start. Anyway.
Can't help it if I'm popular, Bill.
Well, that's one vote.
It's one more than you
Believe. Let us review the fact, the number of votes that were taken when we had our discussion the other day, and who became the most popular as far as the voting public was concerned.
Let's take a look. 'Cause
I believe it was a massive landslide.
It was not a landslide.
Well, based on you define landslide, I define
tell them what we're
landslide.
talking about. They're like, what the hell is he talking about?
We did a show the other day, and I did a
clip.
I did a clip, and he decided that he would counter the clip, and we put him out there to see which one of us would be most liked by the public. And as I knew to begin with, I won that thing because come on, count
The landslide. You had 261 views. I had 256. That's
more
a
than
landslide.
Look,
Okay,
one
Hillary.
vote is a landslide.
Okay, Hillary.
Yeah, but you got to remember, you had your whole family dial in.
And oh, by the way, you had 2 extra hours over me.
At some point, that becomes moot. When it's up for a few days, it becomes moot.
Yeah, so those are the numbers as of our filming right now. 261 to 256.
So, as I said, a blowout.
Anyway, what are we chatting about? We got
I don't know,
there's so much again. There's always something.
I don't know. I think we should start with the president being sandbagged.
Well, here we go. Sandbagged.
It's his statement, not mine.
Go ahead, tell him.
He was doing and to be fair to him, people have fallen.
Fair?
Yeah, I am always fair. To be fair to him, people have fallen before presidents have gone up steps. I'm thinking of President Ford, who had trouble with every flight he's ever gotten close to. Hit his head every time he went into an airplane.
Chevy Chase made an entire career off of
pretty
that.
much so. But anyway, the president was at the Air Force Academy for graduation, and while walking across the stage, did a full 9.9 dive, where he landed straight down.
Nadia Comaneci was jealous of his perfect score on that.
Pretty much,
yeah.
He was, and people had to help. Secret Service had to help him get up, which was.
And that's a point I was going to talk about with that. So let's be clear: we don't wish him to get hurt,
not at all,
fall or any of that. No. But they mocked
would
Trump
he know
for
he was
walking
hurt?
down a ramp, so it's fair game
Would
to
he
mock
know he
him.
was hurt?
I don't know, but
to be fair, people have fallen before. This is not unusual.
But the point I took away from, and I've watched the video, I don't know, probably 24 times at this point, from various things, but he couldn't get back up on his own.
Nope.
Now, realizing that you're old too, not much younger than our
Thank
president, you can at least get up off the floor.
You trained me.
I did.
So you understand what that means is I had 2 artificial legs, knees put in, and that takes some training how to get up again. And he is a trainer.
Excuses are like assholes, Bill. Everybody's got one and they all stink.
Now look what you just said. You used the nasty word on the air again, and we're going to get banned because of that. You should be bleeped.
But the fact that he couldn't get up, and he was trying, I call it sad more than anything else. I feel bad for the guy. Setting all the political stuff aside, and I genuinely feel bad for the guy. He's being literally propped up, literally at this point. Go ahead. I'm
going to be good.
I'm trying to be kind to the man.
So am I. I didn't say it. But to be fair to him, people fall. He's become an expert at it. But
he is very good at it.
Yes, he's done it in a number of places. And fortunately, when he falls, he hits his head, so that damages nothing.
That's a key point right there, though. For again, you're taking a shot at him. I get that, but what if he does? Let's say he fell, got severely concussed, and it is possible, and can't then perform his duties. Don't take the shot yet. You can have it in a little bit. What happens then? Let's play out that fun little scenario.
Well, it's easy. It's called the 25th Amendment.
And then what happens?
And then they decide that Kamala Harris moves up. And
That's my
we've
point.
gone from worse to worser.
Worcestershire.
Worser to worser.
Kind of like Worcestershire sauce. Yeah.
We've gone from impaired to no brain.
Wow. Be kind.
I was.
Sadly, you're right. And that was the other takeaway I had watching that is like, God forbid. I mean, he fell on a stage. That was bad. But, there's the videos out there of him falling, going up the stairs on Air Force One. What if he literally fell down the stairs and ended up incapacitated?
Yeah, or any place. I mean, he could. There are stairs to the White House. He takes the elevator sometimes. Maybe he should notice it whether there's an elevator there when he steps in. But
we need to realize this as the citizens of this country that, we always talk about the vice president is one heartbeat away. This is a whole other level of it. And God help us if she becomes president. Her own party doesn't even want her to be president. What does that tell you?
And that's bad for them because they usually want anybody to be president.
I mean, and that was the whole thing I was thinking as I was watching, because like I said, I watched multiple replays on various different. It was fun seeing how the news spun it, though, the mainstream.
Oh, yeah, they were.
Oh, they were in full spin mode, like, it's no big deal.
Yeah, right. I mean, just like when Ford hit his head or when Trump did
Trump
his.
walks down a ramp holding the thing, and they
in
go
ice,
nuts.
on slippery shoes.
But it just shows you how mind-numbingly, I was going to say stupid, but I don't want to give stupidity credit.
No, how about partisan?
Well, bias was the word I had.
I got partisan.
Bias, partisan, they're all
It's
same.
more syllables. It gets more intelligent. More syllables. Partisan.
Partisan. They are, especially Mr. Chuck Todd.
Up Chuck.
Up Chuck. On Meet the Press, which I've talked about before. Back when Russert was the host and moderator, it was fantastic. I used to watch it every week. Mm-hmm. And, he said some things I didn't agree with or like, but he also said things the other side didn't agree with or like. He was a true journalist. Whereas Upchuck, who happens to be married to a woman who's part of the Democratic Party, although he never seems to reveal that.
That seems to be a common trait in most positions up there. They kind of meld together. If you're in the politics, you're somewhere in the Democratic Party. If you're part of the media, you somehow get married to the Democratic Party.
I started to watch Meet the Press this week because I wanted to see how they were going to spin it, and I had to turn it off. It was just so nauseating because anyone who watches that and doesn't realize that it's pure propaganda at this point.
You see, now, if I were Secret Service agents assigned to Kamala, our vice president, if something happened to the president, I'd go on high alert because someone's going to be sent to take her out so that she doesn't go there.
Not by the right.
Not by us, no.
Not by the right either.
Not by us, no, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, her own party, not even 1% supported her.
Well, she was the first out of the Democratic primary in 2020.
All I could picture is her cackling. China invades Taiwan. Or Putin does something, or...
Speaking on that, that's a good topic coming up shortly.
We're segueing here.
We're segueing really
Without
quick.
even knowing about it, we're segueing.
You've segued beautifully.
Okay.
We've done enough with old Humpty Dumpty fell down and broke whatever.
You better be careful. You're not far from him, just so you know.
Thank you, sir.
Just saying. When was the last time you were on a bike?
This morning.
A bike on the road.
It was on the road. And I was on all kinds of good stuff this morning.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, I went to a gym.
Uh-huh. Jim Beam does not count.
Ooh.
And Greta's even rolling her eyes on that.
That was just...
All right, go on.
Anyway, I really think we should discuss a much more serious issue, and that issue is China and foreign relations. If you paid attention to what's going on in the last week, not only are they rattling sabers and looking at Taiwan more hungry than they have in a while, and they're building more land bridges to get closer to them, what was more fascinating is the military leadership in our country, which admittedly ain't that bright right now. they tried to have a meeting with the Chinese leadership to try to defuse things,
A couple weeks ago, right?
and they were just blown away. No, we're not interested in dealing with you.
Thanks,
just go
but no
away.
thanks, basically.
Yeah, and that's scary.
It's beyond scary, Bill. It points to they've reached the point, they being the Chinese, they've reached the point where there's no point in negotiating in their mind. They're just going to do what they're going to do. They don't want to hear it from us. They know we don't have the stomach to fight them at the top levels.
Nor can they find anybody to talk to with any brains.
Man, you are butter today. You're on a roll.
Oh,
I'm just telling you, man.
I just seeded that one, didn't I?
You know, when you look at the whole situation in the East, in Russia, Ukraine, I mean, just to kind of throw Ukraine in there, they are on the verge of a major offensive, the Ukrainians are.
Yep, they are.
And Putin's going to get his ass kicked.
And other parts.
It's not an if. He's going to get his ass kicked, especially when, you know, you're rolling Leopard 2s and Abrams in against
And the
1950s
F-16s you're
era.
talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, against T-55s, it's
Well,
going to be...
even their MiGs and their other tanks are just not as good. They
have
just don't.
no
They don't
shot.
match up.
Yeah. I mean, we've already proved that in Desert Storm.
Right. We
My point with that being, Putin's going to get desperate. And the more desperate he gets, what other alternatives does he have at this point? He's conscripting everybody he can. I actually was watching a video on it the other night. Do you know how much training these conscripts are getting? A week to 10 days. And then they're thrown on the front lines. Now, you're military. I'm not.
We take 6 months from the time you're drafted to the time you get to the front lines. That's the estimate on our side.
As opposed to 6 days.
Yes.
Now, imagine getting thrown. You were in tanks. So could someone reasonably, average person, go into a tank in 6 days and be even moderately competent?
Depends on the job. If
Okay.
you're only teaching them to be a loader,
Well, that's, yeah, okay, fair enough.
you know. But if you're going to be a gunner, or you're going to be a driver,
The driver
or you're
was
going to
the
be
one.
TC. You know, those are jobs that take a certain amount of finesse and skill.
The driver was the one I was kind of thinking about, because it can't be easy to drive a tank. I'm sorry.
Well, no, but they've gotten better because it used to be the two levers on
steering
either
wheels
side.
now.
They got a steering
Well,
wheel.
we have steering wheels.
So do they.
Do they? I don't know.
They do.
Yeah, but I just was sitting, and I feel bad for those guys. You know, you get drafted, 6 days later you're in the front lines against, let's face it, Ukrainians, they are training their troops.
But you got to also remember there's a difference between defending your home and
There's
being an
that.
invader.
The
You know,
big difference.
When you're defending where you live and who you love, you fight a whole lot harder than if you're just coming out and you're being forced to go fight. So there's a reality to that.
So what happens when Ukraine launches this offensive, whenever it is?
Well, the Russians are going to get, as you said, they're going to be in trouble. Let's put it that way. Okay.
You're being
And
kind, but yeah.
what are their options to come back with? is
That's
the
my
question.
point. Yeah.
Do they send more troops in? Do they upgrade what they're fighting with? Do they go to Taknuk, which is possible?
That's my fear right there. They're going to... In fact, that's the only alternative they have at this point in my mind. I mean, they're using T-55s, Bill. They're out of T-72s now.
Well, they don't have any. Nothing is working. They can't.
Well, that's the
get
point,
parts.
right? So, okay, they're using tanks that were obsolete 50 years ago against not quite our best, but pretty damn good tanks.
Yeah, the M1 or even if you've got an
Yeah,
M60s over there,
They're not getting
in
the cream of
trouble.
the crop, yeah. But you know, if you're Putin looking at this, okay, you draft another 300,000, throw them in, human wave. I was in this video. It's out on YouTube. If I can find it when I put this up, I'll share it because it's very interesting to watch. They weren't even sending them with weapons.
Well, that's not uncommon.
It was, you're going to go to the front lines, and when somebody dies, grab their weapon.
Pick up that, but that's been done, especially in the Chinese side of the house, Vietnam. they would send the first row in, the first wave in with weapons. The second wave would pick up
as you go.
As you go, if someone's laying there, get your rifle and drive on.
But if you're doing that against a professional army, and I'm going to give Ukraine credit at this point.
Well, I wouldn't say professional, but at least battle hardened.
I mean, they're going to get decimated. So again, go back to what I want to talk about, which is Putin's going to get more desperate.
Do they then? It all depends on what the response is for their counteroffensive. Do they just push them back to their border? Do they actually step into Russia? There's all kinds of options that we haven't discussed, or what reactions are going to be very different. Now, you invade Russia.
That's a whole other ballgame.
That starts a brand new ballgame within the Russians' mind, because now you're invading them.
My belief, though, and my understanding is Zelensky has point blank said he will not go into Russia. He's just looking to kick them out of their border.
Well, then you're basically fighting another version of Vietnam, where there was a line you couldn't. North Vietnam couldn't go to. You couldn't go to Thailand.
Right.
And
there was
Laos.
This video was great. It was about 45 minutes long. They were talking about if the Ukrainians attack north, there's a Russian town that's like a hub for transport. But Zelensky won't do it because he doesn't want to cross into Russia.
Yeah, well, that opens up another can of worms.
So tactically, it made total sense to go after this town.
Militarily, it makes all the sense in the world.
But he didn't want to do it because of then he's invading Russia. It's not looking good. I think between China and Taiwan and Ukraine,
and
Russia,
the Soviet Union, and then we haven't even got to the Middle East.
That powder keg has been
festering for decades,
centuries. But at least at this point, it's not. I mean, this is to get to the point where I'm going to say this. It's not that bad right now, which is saying something.
Yeah, that does say an awful lot.
With Iran being Iran.
Yeah, but there also is a lot of attacks starting against Israel. Their missiles are coming in again, but a little more than usual. And they're saber rattling again.
When you got valedictorians in New York City advocating for the destruction of Israel,
Army, Navy, Air Force, NYPD.
You have members of Congress, Ilhan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, advocating for it.
Well, my favorite still is Representative Johnson from Georgia, who in, I think it was 2010, actually asked our military leadership when they were putting more equipment into Guam, wasn't he afraid that it was going to tip the island over?
Yeah, we talked about that one before.
Yeah, that will always remain my favorite because, an IQ test for the...
Which you did a video on the IQ
yes.
test. Was he in the back of your mind when you said that one?
He was
you didn't
not in the
him.
back of... Oh, yes, I did. I believe I did.
No, you didn't on that one. You went after... well, you didn't go after... Actually, you were very kind for you. Feinstein, Biden, and somebody else. It wasn't Johnson, though.
Maybe AOC.
Don't get me going on AOC. You know what I have to say on that. I just think... Remember the old doomsday clock? And we were like a minute. I mean, we're at like 1 second now.
Yeah, that just kind of sat there forever.
I think we're in as bad a shape right now that way as we were probably with the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, and then throw into it the chaos in our own country, which doesn't help at all.
Yeah, I mean, every single day it's just getting worse and worse. I feel like doom and gloom every time we get together and talk, but that's the reality. That's where we're at right now. I mean, you can't have a reasonable conversation with someone at this point. You look at California. Let's just put some dynamite along the San Andreas and get it over with.
Tactical nuke right there.
No, we don't want to use nukes, Bill.
Yeah, but one little tack, small, 5 megaton, and make
mind,
that all, and you make Arizona oceanfront. There's your
and
solve
the
a lot of
other
problems.
one they could do is if we did it on the Hudson River, because there's a fault line. People don't know this. There's a major fault line that runs down the Hudson River. We could get rid of New York City too.
Yes, but you also get rid of Con Ed and Indian Point.
I'm okay with that.
Indian Point. Now let's look at that.
It's not going to affect upstate that much. The winds go to the east and north. Boston might not like it, but it's Boston. Well, Sorry, Boston.
They got the big dig. They can go back underneath anyway.
It's just, you look at, did you see the reparations thing? They're pushing that again.
But you know what was an interesting thing that came out today? And I forget the player, but he's on Orlando. with Black Star, one of his players. And
Basketball?
Basketball.
I don't know anything about basketball.
Well, it's a round thing, and you dribble it.
That's
you shoot
about
up
what
the
I
hoop.
know, Bill, and that's
Okay,
it.
okay.
I couldn't-
But he is putting out his own anti-woke shirts.
oh boy.
He was the only
and
guy,
he's in the NBA,
and he's in the NBA, and he was the only guy in the team that refused to kneel.
which is owned by China, by the way.
Well,
Did I say that out loud? We're not supposed to say that, Bill.
well, we won't go.
Wow. So whoever it is.
But
Producer, could
it's
you look up
starting to
see what it
crack.
is, just out of
It's
curiosity?
starting to crack. I mean, if you get the NBA starting to say it, you're seeing it more and
Is
more
it
around
though,
the
Bill?
country. Yeah, it is, because people are getting fed up with it, and they're starting to say this is going to stop.
The average person is, but you look at Major League Baseball, the player that had a problem with what the Dodgers were doing, they made him apologize.
Yep, and now they're trying to find a way to apologize to everybody
That
over
ain't-
what they did.
So I watched, because I'm a Yankees fan. The Yankees were playing the Dodgers this weekend, and there were empty seats. Now, mind you, Yankees Dodgers is about
but
as big as it can get.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yankees, has-beens.
Has-beens.
See, you noticed too.
Compared to who? The Mets?
First of all, my Mets are always there trying. They're very trying.
They're trying to suck, is what they're trying to.
And they don't even do that well.
Yeah.
But,
I don't want to pick on the Mets because it's too easy.
well, actually, you have the Yankees and the Mets who have proven the best team money can buy and the worst team money can buy. And they never really...
Well, it's nice that New York City's got a major league team and a minor league team.
Well, they have a team that, you just got to understand, being an old Brooklyn Dodger fan, which
Go ahead.
I was with a mere tyke when they moved, but a tyke. And when the Mets and then the Giants moved off, and then when the Mets took the colors of both teams and put them together,
Because they couldn't come up with anything original.
Well, they were going to take Yankee colors, but those damn Yankees are always an issue.
But you think about Dodger Stadium is iconic. You have two teams that go back a century playing each other in the World Series, and there were empty seats. That said, there weren't as many as I was wondering if there would be. I thought it would be bigger. So I think that whole scenario has an effect. It's a blip, though, that one.
But when you think about, because I've been listening now that the ad agency that hired Devlin to do the Busch Light
Oh, boy.
is now getting panicky because they don't think it worked. This is very bright people.
They just figured this out.
Yeah, it was just on Breitbart today. As a matter
They're
of
down
fact.
like $30 billion, I think it's up to at
Well,
this
last
point.
thing I heard was $16 billion and growing.
No, it's gone even higher now, Bill. It's in the 20s for sure.
But what's happened in many of our large corporations is they were started by conservative capitalists. Okay, like you take a Ford, like you take all the people have done this. Then their kids took over, and their kids were trained based in Harvard and some of the Yale and they get trained in the elite leftism, and they try to bring it to the operation. It's not going to change because they still believe it. What will change it is when the shareholders get really
Wall Street.
clobbered.
Yeah.
When the shareholders start realizing that what they put their money in for retirement is going down the tube, there's going to be a revolution.
The problem is there's that DEI score out there that the hedge funds are pushing these companies with. So I'll give you a little scoop that I'm working on.
Oh, a pooper scooper.
A little scoop. So are you familiar with Canva at all?
Canva, no.
Canva is an editing software.
Okay.
It's an outstanding software, I might add. Well, me being me, pointed out to them some inequalities with their software. And I'm going to just leave it at that for now. And then, of course, they're hitting me back with the typical corporate doublespeak. I'll reveal more when I'm ready because I've actually invited them to come on my other podcast.
Ooh.
Because they know I have them by the you-know-whats.
No, what?
Grapefruits. We'll go with grapefruits because
The
that's
Grapefruit
family.
League. I've heard of that league.
More to come on that, but it's interesting. Where I'm going with it is it's interesting seeing their replies. You talked about the Harvard school. It's straight out of that mindset. Well, you're right, but we're not going to. We'll look into it. Is their reply?
But until the shareholders had enough, that's when things will change.
And
But
that's
not until. Again,
shareholders
there's
are the
that
hedge
old-
fund leaders
The shareholders decide who's in charge.
to a point.
You get enough of them together to vote a certain
Well,
direction.
that's the can you get enough? You're exactly right. So, have you ever gone to one of those meetings?
Not too many years ago. Or
Oh,
too
it was
remember.
fun. They're hilarious.
I think I had 10 shares in something. So
Yeah, I actually went to one a few years back, 15 or so years ago, and just to observe, and I cast my vote, whatever it was we were voting on, but it's a dog and pony show. It's no different than
I
politics.
have 100 shares. I have my 10. Does that
Yeah,
make a difference?
yeah. I have one share, and if you have one share, by the way, you can go.
Yes.
They can't
That's true.
refuse you to go, and you can speak if you so desire, but it's no different than politics. It's a dog and pony show. It's all scripted. If they know you're going to say something bad, they'll cut your ass off.
Which makes it difficult to sit.
Well, yeah. But
But,
anyway, I think it's turning. Yes, I do. I think it's turning rapidly. Actually, it's starting to snowball.
People have had enough. People are looking at. There's two kinds of levels you've got to be looking at. The obvious stupidity. When you start making changes like gender issues, transgender, we're down that whole line. People know it's wrong. You can't change 6-year-olds and start telling them that they need to go through that. A 6-year-old can't have a weapon, but he can decide what sex he is.
Can't get a tattoo.
Right. But he can
But can
decide
cut
what
his
sex
genital-
he wants
but
to
can
be.
cut his
If he or
genital.
she wants to be at 6.
I'm still waiting. By the way, I keep throwing that at them. I have yet to get a response. They'll sit there and go, but a tattoo's permanent. Cutting off the grapefruits is not. Well, they can be sewn back on.
Well, I have a joke for that, but I'm not sure it would survive.
What do you think? Now, look, if someone's 18 years old and they want to go get the grapefruits removed,
Do your own- do
go
your
for
thing.
it.
Goodbye.
I have no problem with it. An 8-year-old, not a chance.
No. And all of these blockers, the hormone blockers, to stop any production you're just messing the kid up forever.
Looking at it from a biological perspective, this is the conversation that's not being had. They believe, they being the people that support this stuff, that you just stop doing it and it hasn't. That's it. Everything reverses. It does not. If you put someone pre-puberty or during puberty on hormone blockers, you are retarding their natural change in their body. Male, female, whatever changes you want to go with. It doesn't just magically reverse. And they actually believe that it does.
And nor worse than that is if they decide to stop the blockers, you just can't make up for the 4 or 5 years you've
So
lost.
that's my point. You've lost that permanently. There was something I saw that they're now advocating for 10-year-old boys to have vasectomies because they're getting girls pregnant. But will reverse them after age 25 if the woman signs a contract saying that she's okay with it.
Well, you know what?
Here's the problem, Bill. After about 2 years, you can't reverse a vasectomy.
No.
Oops.
Well, you could make a donation to the sperm bank and get them later.
And then when you point that out to them, that's not true. Yeah, it is.
Never let facts interfere with beliefs.
But it's amazing that they cannot.
But part of this is media. For
Of
example,
course it's the media.
When they stop running Pregnant at 16, which is out there now on MTV and places like that, and instead they run 18, successful, and going to college. Now there would be a show that might change some direction.
Yeah, but you're not going to get any ratings because it doesn't, if it leads, it bleeds, Bleeds, it leads, whatever. Say it backwards.
We go back to the same old routine, two sexes, no matter what you want to do. And we've already said before, there's been not one archaeologist that's found a third sex anywhere they've been digging for the last 100,000, 200,000 years. They have never discovered anything but male or female bodies.
Well, technically there are hermaphrodites, but they're like 1 in 10 million or whatever the number is. But I get your point. It just, when you look at it from a societal standpoint, the fact that we're even having a conversation about whether an 8-year-old is capable of making this decision, we've jumped the shark. Why is this even a conversation? Why are we having conversations about whether a pedophile, a map.
No, a pedophile.
A map. I mean, to see politicians stand up and go, they're just misunderstood. They're not doing anything wrong. Are you kidding me? Again, over 18, do whatever the hell you want within reason. I mean, obviously, you shouldn't go unalive someone, but
Unalive someone?
can't say the other words, Bill. It's called unaliving. Because nobody knows what that means.
Unaliving.
You know what?
I'm going to say murder.
But the fact that we're having a point where you can't say certain words because it might upset someone.
Well, I know you can't use.
Like, I
even
don't
mother and father became a problem.
Woman.
Woman.
And, you know, the Democrats are lining up behind this. I thought they were the party for the women.
Not anymore.
By the way, Riley Gaines,
but the
she's on a
women-
roll. Whew.
But women don't even stand up for women. Where is our now group? They're then. They're gone. Now is then and gone.
You're going to get me going on them now.
It's my week to get you started.
Apparently. It's just, you know, I was thinking about it over the last few days. We've jumped the shark. How do you come back from this? How are we having a conversation about a 4 to 8 year old? Even DeSantis was kind of talking about this, you know, with his books and stuff like that. It's like, why are we having this conversation? How did we get to this point? We got to this point because the media primarily, and by media, I don't mean just TV and radio, social media and all that, promotes it.
Yeah, combined with a
All of it.
political party that believes anything goes as long as it's not Republican.
Pretty much. I mean, California's got proposed laws that says
Well, you
laws
know how
that
we
are
stop
within
it
10
though?
years old.
You know how we stop all that? Let the Republicans accept it and start pushing it. The Dems will immediately go the other way.
Yeah, well, you've mentioned that before.
Yeah, but
Yeah, if they come out in favor of it,
ladies and gentlemen, there's a book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus,
you know, I'm surprised that one hasn't been canceled.
and the rest are from Uranus.
I remember reading that book. That was quite
The
the book.
Uranus book?
Yeah.
No, that was an interesting. It was an interesting book years ago.
And actually, if you read it, it actually makes total sense.
You know, I was talking to a gentleman the other week. By the way, on getting another book. He's reading 1984 for the first time.
First time.
First time. Never knew it existed till I talked
Does
to
he
him.
know it's now a factual book, not nonfiction or
I
nonfiction?
put it in
nonfiction?
reference section.
You know, we should propose that to the local libraries, that they move it from fiction to
Reference section.
reference, because it's the blueprint they're following.
Old Soul is that?
So
it?
what was he saying? Did he said he started it? Or-
No, he's starting it because he didn't
Oh.
know it existed. We had this long conversation, and I compared it with
Wait. Back the truck up. He didn't know it existed.
what part of that didn't
How
you
old
hear?
is he?
Mid-30s, maybe.
Wow.
And he
I
had
guess-
no clue. When I mentioned it, he said, so I talked a little bit
Really?
about it, and I explained how it kind of fits today's role model, pulled a few things out of it that I remember. And he said, who wrote it? I said, Orwell.
George Orwell. Yeah.
And he said, he wrote it all down. He says, I'm going to get that. He put it in his book.
Oh,
in
is
his
he
list
going to
of
get
fun.
his eyes opened if
Oh,
if he reads it open-minded? I see. They must have pulled it out of the curriculums because I had to read it in high school.
Yeah, but it was current events for you.
Pretty much was, yeah. It just surprises me that they haven't
He
read
had
it.
no clue. Never heard of it.
Teachers, why aren't you having people read that? Oh, wait, because it makes you look bad.
Because it doesn't have the ending that
Yeah,
it has the ending you want, but we don't want people to know that you want that.
Yeah.
You know what? We're reaching the point where we need to say it's time to wrap it for a few minutes and come back again and do segment 2. So anyway, from Reclaiming America, Mr. Laughing Pie is out there, and this is Bill saying we'll be back shortly. What do you think here, Joe Biden?
Joe Rogan.
Oh, that's
I
it.
could take his paycheck all day
Boom,
long.
boom. Welcome back, everybody. He's laughing again. It
I'll
must
cut
be
that
time
right
for Reclaiming
Joe
America.
Rogan, I'm coming for you. I want your paycheck. There we go.
And I'll take my cut. So just
Yeah.
send that money in.
You know
We're
what?
good with that.
I'll give you a cut of his
Yeah, if you-
paycheck.
we will do well with that.
Yeah, we
There's
will.
not a problem there. But anyway, we're back to talk a little bit more about what's going on in the world. And I think the first thing we should kind of discuss is the large sonic boom
The
that
plane.
happened over D.C. the last couple days. Unfortunately, and the part that's not funny is a family and a nanny and a 2-year-old ended
Yeah,
up
that's
dying
sad.
in a plane crash. What's still unknown is they were heading from North Carolina to the Hamptons,
Yep.
and somehow they turned around and they entered Washington D.C. space, which is a definite no-no. And they
It's a
launched
big no.
they launched a couple of fighter planes, which they do now since we had 911. And one of the things that happened is that fighter plane broke the sound barrier,
Hit
so
the
they
gas.
had a big explosion. The sound barrier routine. My first reaction was Biden was talking at West Point and fell, and it was just another boom. But I guess it was more serious than that. So anyway, your thoughts, sir?
As we're filming this, there's no real information out there. I just happen to think this is a terrible tragedy.
I agree.
think there's anything political behind it. Who knows?
Just the question is how a plane could suddenly do a 180 and come back.
Yeah, that's on its own. Apparently, that's what they're saying. They're speculating. Somebody mentioned this morning on the news. It's very reminiscent of the crash that killed the golfer Payne Stewart back in I think it was in the 90s, where they lost cabin pressure
And
the
they
plane
fainted,
just
they went
went
out.
for hours. But if
Well, if
that's
they're an
the
automatic
case,
pilot, they would.
but how does it do a U-E and come back towards
Well,
I
the
mean,
only other thought you could have is somebody, maybe the pilot went down and someone else decided to fly the plane
it's speculation.
and just, kind of turned it the wrong way and then they went.
It's sad. It's a tragedy.
Or automatic pilot was not in use, but the last time it was used, it was set for DC.
Possibly. Who knows? It's pure speculation. But we'll find
Anything
out
is right
eventually.
now. But anyway, the loss of life is not funny, and
No.
we do mourn those people, and we wish their families, they're never going to get over it easily, but we wish them as much comfort as you can possibly give them as they deal with this.
Yeah, it's, but again, it speaks to the reaction you're seeing it speaks to where the country's at, right? People, a sonic boom, and people go nuts. It's a sonic boom. I've heard them before. You've heard them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They're not fun.
It takes me back to 911 when I had a high school in Yonkers. And when the jet fighters went up after 911, as they flew over our building, the kids scattered in every direction because they just didn't know.
When you hear one, if you've never heard one, you'll know when you hear one because it's literally earth rattling. They used to do them in the Adirondacks. They don't do them anymore because I think they're allowed to.
Well, it tends to cause snow to fall,
It tends to cause
avalanches, things
It
like
tends to
that.
cause a lot of. I used to camp in the Adirondacks over summer, and this is when Plattsburgh Air Force Base was open. And they'd launch a fighter, and they'd be training. You'd see 2 F-15s go over, and they'd break the sound barrier once in a while.
And all of a sudden, that snow that was up there on the cliff is coming at you.
And we used to sit there and go, "Oh shit," because when these planes would take off and throttle it, they weren't. They claimed they were training. I'm sure some of them weren't necessarily training.
Well, they could have been doing touch and goes and kept flying around and back just to get their time in.
Or they were trying to figure out what was coming over the pole at that point.
Nah, it wouldn't happen.
But it's, you see, people were putting out videos from their door cameras and all that. And panic started in some cases. Not much, but it was there. Terrible tragedy. But it just...
Shall we do a shift right now from that tragedy to the presidential primary, where we now have more people running than are in the average platoon in the military?
Go ahead. I'll let you start. With
As
the
you
two
know,
latest
we
that
have
I know of.
we have our President Trump running again. We now have DeSantis that's come out in strong run. You have Nikki Haley. You have Tim Scott
By
coming
the way,
into it.
Nikki Haley did a hell of a speech yesterday.
Yes, she did. And you have Naomi Noam, I believe, in this race too, or at least she's thinking about it.
I haven't heard she's entered.
And
Christie, you mean?
now we're getting Chris Christie,
Okay, give me a headache, Bill.
and
Go ahead.
of course Mike Pence, who's going to be
Why?
entering the operation as the former vice president, and somehow thinking that he can get elected.
So let me ask you this, because you're more on the political side than I am. What are they thinking?
Well,
To be honest, does Chris Christie really think he's got a shot? Does Pence really think he's got a shot?
Pence might, because he's delusional. But sorry about that, but he's going to be speaking on Saturday at the breakfast. So at the lunch, excuse me. He's the speaker for the lunch.
I mean, Haley's in it because they're setting her up for VP. I think the same for Tim Scott. That's my opinion.
And I agree. And I also think most of the second tier are just getting their name out there so they can be considered for the number 2 slot. However,
Pence
Pence
again?
is not running for the number 2 slot.
I was going to say, not
and
a
I think
chance.
Christie is not even. He knows he can't win, but I think he's playing to get surfaced again for a job in the administration. Whoever wins.
Or job in media, because that's my take on it. Right? Christie's in media, but Pence, you go out, you run, and, CNN hires you.
No, but unfortunately, and I take this not away from him, and he's a devout Christian.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not seeing that CNN would hire a devout Christian who would talk about religious aspects of everything going
I
on.
think at this point they're so desperate to try and get claw back, they'll hire anybody.
No, I don't. You got to remember, it's still a unique place where there are more workers than viewers.
True. I just sit there, I hear these announcements. Like we said, I get why Haley's doing it. I get why Scott's doing it. And honestly, I think in a few years, both of them would be very good candidates. A lot of respect for both of them. But they're running to get on the ticket, not to become president.
Right,
I mean,
or to get a job in the administration.
Exactly.
One way or the other.
Pence, sorry. I mean, he's a nice guy. I'll give him that.
Yep.
I think he did fine as VP.
I think he was a fairly good VP. He wasn't outstanding, but he didn't do anything
But
terribly wrong either.
Does he warm the cockles of your heart running the country? He does nothing for me.
No, I can't
Mike
do this.
Pence is like a warm bowl of oatmeal on a cold morning. That's about it. He's very comfortable. It feels nice, but he doesn't wow me.
Oh, I like that. That was very nice.
That's
that
what
was
he is.
really very nice.
Chris Christie, complete failure as a governor. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
And a complete failure in running for higher office. He's done that a lot too.
You think about how much money they're going to end up spending. Nothing like Trump DeSantis, let's be honest. But that's money that could be spent elsewhere.
Yeah, but when you start looking, I was listening to somebody yesterday, and it bothered me because they're already setting up for failure for Trump, and that's fascinating. One guy's out there; he was actually singing on the air that every Republican has no business running. They should all sit back and say, because of what happened to Donald Trump in 2020, he is our automatic candidate, and we're all going to support him, and there should be nobody running against him. Now, take that to the inverse, which translates, you've already set up an excuse if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And that's exactly what I thought when I heard this guy say, well, you've already made the excuse now if he doesn't win. Or if he gets the nomination, it doesn't go the rest of the way.
I'm a little pissed at Trump right now.
I
Did
agree.
you see what he did to Kaylee?
No, I have not.
He took a shot at her.
Really?
Yeah. I forget exactly what was said, but Kelly. For those that don't know, Kaylee McEnany was, in my opinion, the best press secretary in the history of my lifetime. That when she would pull out the binder, it was got a stop and watch moment.
Yeah, she was good.
She was great, Bill. Brilliant woman. Spot on with everything she said.
You think she's better than her current press secretary?
That bowl of oatmeal I just mentioned
The cold
is
one
not
on a
only
hot day?
better but smarter. Okay. Than the diversity hire. That's what I don't call her press secretary anymore. I call her diversity hire. Sorry.
Okay.
I might get us banned, but I don't care.
How come you care when I get us banned, but you don't care when you get us banned?
But for Trump, can any reasonable person sit there and say Kaylee McEnany didn't support Trump,
Not at all.
and yet he's taking a shot at her? That's why I don't support Trump. He, for lack of a better term, he expects loyalty and he's not giving it back. Now, you may disagree with what she says because she's been critical of him a little bit, but she's in media. She's doing her job. She's not his press secretary, but nothing she said was horrible. And yet he's taking a shot at her. Kind of like he's done with Pence. I mean, Pence and him butting heads. What's the benefit?
Well, the other problem is if he's taking a shot at all these people, and one of them has to be his vice president, how does that flow?
I mean, what he's doing to DeSantis is just wrong.
Oh, I agree.
And to DeSantis' credit, he's fighting back, but he's being somewhat respectful with it. I think he needs to take the gloves off. He's going to have to get dirty, which benefits no one.
You know what I've noticed also with DeSantis, which is interesting? He's refusing interviews on almost all the conservative channels. He's told Breitbart,
Yeah.
he's told Newsmax that he's not interested right now in interviewing with them, which is an interesting philosophy.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. It seems to me that you go there, you're going to get obvious questions about your problem with Trump, and that's not going to help the situation one way or the other. And you also give people the sound bites that they can twist around on the air.
That you kind of got touching on what's the benefit to his campaign to go there right now?
I don't see one.
Yeah,
I don't see one.
Yeah, I think he's playing it smart.
It's just like if you've got an established candidate running and an unknown challenges him, why would you go out of your way to give that unknown any kind of credibility?
And that's my point with Trump going after Pence. What are you doing? What benefit does that have? None.
Except he thinks his base likes it. And there's a portion that does. However, there's a portion that's not really happy with it too.
I've said it a million times. I like Trump's policies. I think he needs to stop the ego.
I think he needs to grow some get away with the thin scale and get him some armor.
I
Maybe
think
he's
he-
armor
I
roll.
actually
A
think-
coating of armor roll.
I think he has thick skin. My personal opinion is this is him projecting his celebrity.
That's interesting.
You don't do what he does and have a thin skin.
Oh, yes, you can, because you have the
I
ability to come back at people financially, legally.
I think in his case, Bill, he knows it worked in 2016 with Hillary, and it did without question. Credit where credit's due. He beat her doing what he did
That's true.
and is doing. But it's like a petulant little child at some point. He's not stepping back and going, okay, if he were doing this to Biden, all right, I'm good with it. To go after DeSantis, I haven't heard anything about Haley, but I'm sure he'll take shots at her if he hasn't already. Unless she's his planned VP, and then you're going to find out who his VP pick is
By who he doesn't
by
shoot.
who he doesn't attack. So clearly it's not DeSantis. But if you are a Republican watching this, and you are, does it benefit the party as a whole for this?
Yes and no, and that may be a cop out. You don't like.
Well, give me the two sides.
One side of it will say you've done all the research for opposition resource already, so you're actually giving the other side what they need. However, the other side to that, it will also go with a tough primary. You come out of a tough primary, you're ready for a tough national election because you've been beat on, you've been thrown on, and you're now prepared to fight. So there's two sides to it. Who's right?
I see that, but do you see it as? Do you really think? Let's be honest. It's Trump, DeSantis. Everybody else, pretty much, unless something major happens somewhere, everybody else is an also ran at this point.
Fair.
If let's say DeSantis starts tearing Trump down. Trump's already tearing DeSantis down. I get your point about it battle hardens them, if you will. But it's not going to give any more ammunition to the Democrats. They already know all this stuff. They're already attacking both of them.
No, but they're getting the ability to go beyond a focus group and see what's really reacting with the people.
Okay, fair point. I just think it's going to cause more fractures than it's going to solve.
Oh, no argument, but Ronald Reagan best said it. You can campaign and talk policy, but speak no ill of a Republican, a fellow Republican.
Yeah, don't take it
and nobody has fallen into that line yet.
And I think Trump has gone personal with it.
No, nobody has taken the point where Reagan said,
Oh,
don't
yeah,
pick
yeah.
on
Well,
Republicans.
I think DeSantis is, to be honest with you.
So far.
I think he's done well. I'm going to, again, I got to admit, I'm a DeSantis supporter. I love everything he does. If he continues the way he's going, I think he's going to end up being the candidate because there are enough people like me that would look at that and go, all right, policy-wise, are they really that much different? There's differences, but in general, pretty much the same. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
So, all right, as someone who's in the primary or watching the primary, looking at this, do I want to go with, the supposed champion of all people, Trump, who talks the talk and walks the walk? I'll give him credit for that. Or do you want to go with the more composed person, the more
a polished Trump?
Polished, essentially, right? If I'm looking at that and then I'm going, all right, who can beat Biden? DeSantis slam dunk.
Well, to be fair to Trump right now, he's beating Biden in all the polls, too. To be fair, if you believe polls.
If you believe polls.
And we both don't.
No. And again, it's so early. We're a full year out from the primaries.
Yeah, they don't even get a chance to register till December.
Yeah, so
or file is the proper
I
word.
think
I'm sorry.
What Trump was, the last few of the polls I saw, Trump's up like 30 points on DeSantis right now. I don't believe that for a second.
I just think probably based on 2020 and some of the revelations that have come out in the last 3 years, I fear that, I hate to say it this way, I fear Trump has enough to pull it off. I'm not sure he has enough to win the general election.
And that's my point, is if I'm looking at that as someone voting in the primary, that's my primary, pun intended, primary concern. That's where my vote is going to be based on, is looking at them issue-wise, 6 of one, half dozen of another. There's really no difference. All right, so looking at that, looking at how Trump led as president, looking at how DeSantis led as governor, both did very good jobs policy-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Both faced criticism nonstop and still do. So they're one and the same person from that perspective to me. So then my vote comes down to who do I think can do one of two things. One, beat Biden. And I think Trump has so much negative around him. It's the reason he lost in 2020. It wasn't that people were voting for Biden. They were voting against Trump. Does DeSantis face the same thing? Yes, not to that level. And then 2, who can best heal the country afterward? If Trump becomes president, it's going to be...
I don't know, frankly, and I like DeSantis.
Okay.
I don't know if either are going to be able to heal the country.
Of the two of them, though, who do you think would be better? I don't disagree with you, by the way.
I really think that once, I go back to, right now the media is probably pushing a little bit of DeSantis over Trump because they think,
I think it's the other way around, to be honest with you.
Well, they could be. But
because they want the
you go back
headlines.
to McClain. I'm going crazy.
John McCain?
John McCain, okay. Thank you. McClain, I'm thinking another story here.
Might as well have been.
He was the darling of the media.
Yeah, because they knew he couldn't beat anybody.
till he got the nomination.
Yeah.
And then he went from the darling to the pits.
Yeah.
And I don't see any different here. The media will eventually try to side in on whoever they think, if they can get someone other than Trump primarily, and they're going to try and find someone that they think that Biden can beat, or whoever
I
finally
think
gets
it's the opposite. I think they're going to push Trump because what they care about is eyeballs and ears. And Trump gives it to them in spades. They can... DeSantis will do things, but he won't be put out on Twitter or Truth Social saying things like Trump does.
I'm not sure about that.
You look at when Trump does anything, CNN runs with it, MSNBC.
Oh, he gives them a sign about a
love
dozen
it.
a day.
And that gets them money. Their ratings are pathetic right now. The best chance for CNN to survive right now is Trump to become the candidate, because it will be like it was for 5 years. Trump 24/7. DeSantis does do that also to a much lesser extent. I get your point. I kind of see it a little different. I think the media also, I think, deep down believes Biden can beat Trump. I don't think they believe they can beat DeSantis.
I don't think anybody should even be thinking the man should run. Let's put it that way. And my biggest concern is not just Biden, but the man is in his 80s. So
well, let's
you
switch
got to be
over to that a little bit.
You've got to be looking at his number 2. could the event he may or may not be able to finish that. Not that he's doing much now, but if he does run and does get elected, he may not be able to fit. He may not survive another term.
Here's my thought process on that. One, Harris is out.
I hope.
There's no way they want her in. I think you're going to see them switch the ticket, with the plan being that Biden runs, assuming he's alive at that point, which we don't know.
It could happen.
Could be, and to be fair, it could happen to Trump tomorrow too. But,
right.
Whoever becomes VP, that's who they really want to be president, right?
Yeah, they'll pull the 25th
So
Amendment as soon as they can.
Exactly. So is it Newsom? Is it Hillary? Is it?
Or RFK, or the other name I hear that they love is Pete Buttigieg.
Buttigieg, yeah. That's the one. That's the other one that's out. I think that's going to be very telling over the next year because the media is not doing anything positive for Harris. If they wanted Harris to become president, you'd start seeing positive stuff about her.
I don't know what you could do to make it positive.
There's nothing, and they know it. Which is why
you got a better chance of making a positive out of Biden than you do out of her.
Well, that's what they've done for the last 4-ish years. Again, it was brilliant to make her VP because it's the reason Biden's still president. Do you honestly believe if they had a even remotely competent person in VP that Biden wouldn't be 25th out now? It'd be done tomorrow, in my opinion.
You're probably right.
Let's say it's Buttigieg is VP.
That would be remotely competent too. And I mean as remote as you
get.
Let's say it's RFK, because at least that man has some competency.
I don't think they're going to let RFK have a chance.
But there's competency.
Because he is competent. They'll find their darling. I actually starting to think it's going to be Newsom.
Oh, God help us.
I am. I think he's...
Well, guess who's number 8 on the list, though, of people?
Who? Hillary?
No. Of the possibilities that was put out about 6 or 8 weeks ago? Cooper.
Oh, you've mentioned him before. He's... Milquetoast has no chance. Okay.
Fight
He
VP.
can't even generate the oatmeal. Okay?
VP.
Oh, God, help us. Speaking of which, quick side note, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Did you see who's now running the CDC?
Yes, I saw that. Mandy, oh, God help us. But
all right, people. For those of you that don't know, that don't live in North Carolina.
Yeah, Mandy Cohen.
Miss...
Dr. Mandy Cohen.
I walk on what?
Dr. Mandy
Doctor without the ability
But
to
this
be
was
a
a
doctor.
medical doctor, not like Jill Doctor, who's an educational doctor.
So, doctor, and I use that term loosely, Mandy Cohen, was on TV literally every single day.
Yep.
Promoting that we had to wear masks, we had to get vaccinated.
Next to our governor.
Was vociferous, I can't even say it, in that the vaccines were going to prevent you from getting COVID and stop transmissions.
And the mask would stop everything.
Weeks and weeks and weeks. And you're killing grandma if you don't wear a mask. I mean, go look at the videotape. They are out there.
And we had to shut these businesses down.
And killed my business. And now, as a result of all that, she got a promotion.
Yep. Under the FUMU program.
I'll use FUBAR also.
You can figure out the F. The rest is up and move
we'll
up.
leave it up. Whatever one you want to use. How this woman becomes the head of the CDC, I know how. Keep it family friendly, Bill.
I have not
All
said a
right?
word.
Walensky was bad. This is worse. You cannot believe a thing that comes out of this woman's mouth. Nothing.
Does she make Fauci look good?
She does, to be honest with you.
Now that's scary.
Because Fauci, we all know, was doing it because it was ego. I mean, he had his own picture up on the wall.
Yeah, but he also
She actually
he has
believes
some stock. in some
Fauci
various
was
places.
doing it for ego. He didn't believe what he was saying, I don't think. He knew what he was saying was wrong. She doesn't. She literally believed it. And she's now running the CDC. I mean, Come on. There's another DEI hire for you. Yeah, I'm saying it. She
DI
is horrific.
You see, I would reverse those letters and make it DIE and make it die.
Oh my God. I mean, I saw that and I exploded, to be honest with you, because I despise the woman because she literally lied for. I watched all those news conferences.
We had good reason.
My business was on the line, and she sat there and lied day after day and advised the governor, milquetoast, who, by the way, it's popping up in my Facebook how, we have to wear masks, but the pictures of him out with the Black Lives Matter protests with no mask, we don't. First thing I would do if he's running for VP is I'd post that right up. I have a meme I made they can use. I'll sign it right over to him. Unbelievable that she's now the head of the CDC.
By the way, now that we're doing a little bit of this, we'll take another little turn here to Josh Stein.
Oh, dear God. Here we go.
Who's running as the Democratic nominee.
He's going to be the nominee.
For the governor.
Yeah.
Who made the world famous statement that he only supports, as the Attorney General, laws he likes. Not his job, man. His job is to support whatever is passed by the General Assembly and make it law and defend it in court.
It just, when you look at stuff like that, you look at, and that mindset, by the way, is the same mindset DAs have across the country that Soros got in. It's their whole party's mindset. You killed someone. Oh, sorry, unalived him. We'll let you out in a couple of days. It's fine that you did that. And then you go murder somebody else. And, how many cases of that have we seen now? You look at Portland. I've never been to Portland, have you? I've heard it was a beautiful city.
I've never landed there.
San Francisco, it's been 10 years, give or
me
take,
too,
since
but it
I've
was
been
gorgeous
there.
at one point.
It was gorgeous city. It was beautiful. The people were very nice. I mean, I spent several weeks there. Loved it. If it wasn't so expensive, I would have considered moving there. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but the problem is now your dog steps in people poop.
Yeah. When you have to have an entire department created to clean up poop for people, and you've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands.
And as long as you steal
homeless,
under $1,000, it's free to pick up and shoplift.
and this is what you want for the whole country. And
then you blame the businesses that are shutting down and disappearing. That's their fault.
Yeah, so some guy opened his business 2 days later. He was robbed blind in his closing. 2 days he lasted. Why would you open a business there now? And yet you want to put this through the whole country?
Well, unless you're a fence.
I think at this point the fences are... There's so much product available.
They're paying 10 cents on the
I was
dollar.
gonna
They
say,
cut it to 5 cents on
They're
the
like,
dollar.
yeah, we're full. We're good. Oh, you got another TV. That's your 15th one this month. I'm good. We can't get rid of them all. But to go back to the presidential.
Well, they can take them back to the store they were stole from and get a retail coverage.
Well,
and get the full refund.
Yeah.
I lost my receipt. Give me a store credit.
It's just mind-bogglingly scary. But to go back to the presidential, I think you're going to see the Democrats slot whoever is their chosen one is going to be slotted for VP. Biden runs. If he wins, they 25th him out by February 1st.
Did we talk about Stephen Smith last week?
No, I do not believe we did.
You know who Stephen Smith is?
I do.
Yes, who is a sports commentator, for want of a better term, and somewhat controversial. However, he did a statement the other day, which is actually, if you go YouTube it and find it, you'll find out the man speaketh the truth. He took on black crime and basically said,
Stephen A.
53
Smith,
Stephen A. Smith, right?
You have to put the A in. I met him once. That ego you see on TV, in person,
Is worse.
far worse.
That's
That man
fascinating.
has an ego. He makes Trump look like a meek little mouse ego-wise.
That's hard.
And I'm not joking.
But he
either.
actually went out and took on the
But he
53
did.
people shot in Chicago Memorial Day weekend and made comments about that. And he said, until we start cleaning up our own act, everybody's, and he actually said this, we all yell and scream about one officer shooting one black American, but 53 of us were shot this weekend and no one cares. And that was Chicago.
All I'm going to say to this, Bill, is go watch the videotape of what he said in 2020, because it was the exact opposite.
Well, everyone is allowed to learn, become educated, and switch over.
I have a nickname for him. He's called a pander bear, because he panders to whoever he thinks will listen to him.
I don't think
Anything comes out of his mouth is designed for one reason: to make himself look better.
Yeah, but the world.
But he's right in this
The world's
instance.
greatest truth sayer said he was 100% true.
Even a clock is right twice a day.
I've heard that one before.
I'm sure you have. But
He was.
and I'll give him credit for saying what he said, because he's right. But what's interesting is the reaction to it. Oh, wow! I guess we should think about this. Yet, how many other blacks, political, sports, whatever, have said it before?
Yeah, but
they're
unfortunately,
Uncle Toms.
they're not hearing it on the channels they watch.
ESPN.
You know, they are not playing what's going on in New York, San Francisco, L.A., Chicago.
Well,
it doesn't get out there.
Yeah, he's on ESPN, so for him to say that, I'm sure Disney wasn't very happy with it. But he's right. And he talked about one weekend. I remember the last time I was in Chicago was 2016. And I was there on a weekend, and they were running, the crawls on the bottom. They were running the shot totals, like this many shot, this many kill, in 2016.
Well, they finished Memorial Day weekend with 53 shot, 11 fatally.
Sad.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at somebody like
And keep in mind, let's point out, with the strictest gun control rules in the country.
Oh, but their mindset, Bill, is that, well, they're going and buying them in, say, North Carolina. Well, okay. Why is that? You're still...
Do you not think if you put those rules anywhere else, they would still be doing the same
You
thing?
think they can't get weapons in Canada, the criminals? Or England? England's an island, and they still get them.
They can get Russian weapons. They don't work that well. But
It's just... I'm glad he said what he said. I am. But I also take what he said with a grain of salt as far as his intention.
I'm going to give him credit because he's drawing a lot of flack. And I'm going to give him credit for taking the stand that we need to at least look at it and deal with it. He's not saying that other things don't happen, racism, whatever else, but he's saying this issue we're ignoring, and it's a bigger threat to our economic group, our racial group, than the other issues that we all scream about.
But you look at somebody like Ben Carson talking about this when he was running in 2016, or when he was the head of HUD. He talked about this frequently.
But nobody covered him.
Oh, he was covered, and he was called an Uncle Tom and a few other not so polite
Nobody
ways.
calls Stephen A. Smith Uncle Tom.
No, they don't. That's my
because
point.
he's a hardcore. Ben Carson was a great surgeon and a great guy.
He's a great person.
Great American, okay, and a
Person,
great
yes.
surgeon.
Whatever you want to
he set records, and I think he did the first separation of twins, I believe it was.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he was the first one to
Brilliant,
pioneer
man.
it.
And I would have voted
and
for
came
him for
from
president.
extremely humble conditions, and overcome everything necessary to become the man he was. But he was too upright and honest to survive that kind of operation. Stephen Smith will look you in the eye, spit you in the eye, and say, "I dare you." Go ahead.
Wow, he loves controversy. He lives for it. It's his whole
and
shtick.
there's the difference.
Yeah.
Most of us grew up. There's an old line: parents don't want fairness; they want quiet. So
We've talked about that before.
yeah, shut up, Johnny. Give your younger brother the toy that may be yours. I don't want to hear it. And we grew up that way. We want quiet, and we're willing to give what to do. Unfortunately, the other side will do whatever they can because we think we give in to
Here's
them.
the question, because we got to wrap this up. Do you think it has an effect?
TBD.
Yeah, I mean, as two old white guys, does it wake up?
But I'm
the African American
297, the Cherokee.
Yeah, I'm somewhat. I got back in like the 1860s.
You have the high cheekbones. I think
Yeah, I think
you're related to our senator.
I have one Indian relative. I'm not like Elizabeth Warren and claim that I'm Native American, though. I have more blood than she does, but
Chipmunks have more blood than she does.
But I'll be interested to see if this has any
Or it just
effect.
disappears.
Or it just disappears, because it is a legitimate concern. And you look at the black community and what's going on in there, and it makes me sad. It really does, because they're no different than us. I hate.
I go
it's
back
all-
to a good friend of mine, and I'm speaking next month to black ministers in this county. So, it's an interesting dichotomy. But a good friend of mine lived in Ahoskie, down the road here, black gentleman. And he always said to me, the biggest threat to our group of people is the ministers. And he says to
Really?
me, and he said to me, go look at the churches, who's going? Women, children, and not a lot of guys.
Well, that goes to the fatherlessness issue. That's
Yeah, but
what
there's
my
still
point.
you could still be a bachelor and go to church.
True.
But it's reaching the point that we need to cover that some other time down the road. But we're going to leave that as a thought
As
to
our
be determined
producer's
down the
giving
road
us the
as
fist.
we're getting the word that we better cut this.
Yes. But
So anyway.
it's interesting. I would like to talk about that.
Yeah,
actually.
and why don't you make some comments about that in the
Yeah,
chat
'cause
room, and
we
we'll
are
follow on it.
I would like to hear the black opinion on it. I'm genuinely would like to know. I would.
I have a man who'll come on with us, by the way.
I think it would be great.
And he's a
because
minister. He'd be great to come on.
I think that conversation needs to be had. And I'd be the first to tell you, I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I want to hear their perspective and what their solutions are. Not what Joe Biden's solution is, or Trump's for that matter.
He doesn't have a solution.
His solution is to pander to them and try and get their votes, which he basically came out and said. But better wrap it up before we get in trouble.
Yeah, his solution basically can be summed up in Alka-Seltzer to take care of the bumps
you
and
ain't-
bruises he has.
If you didn't
Anyway,
vote for him, you're not black. That's his solution.
That's true.
what
Anyway,
he said.
this is Reclaiming America, and we're glad you joined us this trip, and we're looking forward to talking to you again.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, blah, blah, blah. I'll put the little thick graphics up.
And we're glad Henry came back with us for part of the show.
He lasted about a minute, and then he's gone again.
Well, he's becoming the contract issues. He's trying to negotiate
True.
a better contract with you
Yeah, I
guys.
think that's what it is. We need to give him more
He's over
kibble.
there behind the lights.
Oh, there he is.
Maybe he
All
wants to be a director.
He's behind the scenes. He's the king, though.
Yes, he
We
certainly
got to
is.
offer him more. I guess we put little sardines out for him or something.
I'm not sure he likes sardines.
Yeah, we'll have to ask. All right.
All right, anyway, see you next time.
See you next time.